Okay, I think we are live. Remove. Okay. It's asking me to. Okay. Sorry, we had some glitches here for those of you who've been waiting for us to come online. But hi, everyone. My name is Nada Ahmed, and I'm your host for the Braving Innovation podcast. I help businesses innovate and bring new products and services to market. I believe every company and team can achieve immense success in creating sustainable and profitable business models. And through this podcast, I bring to you inspiring stories, tips, and strategies from leaders all around the world so that you can excel on your journey as an entrepreneur, innovation leader, and investor. And I am really excited to be here with you today because I have a very special guest on with me. Her connection is a little bit shaky, so she might be coming in and out, but hopefully we can have a good conversation now once we get started. But let me introduce you to a powerhouse of a woman, Carolyn Brand, who is a business advisor and negotiation strategist and helps women succeed in business and at business. She has over 20 years of executive experience from some of the top companies like Rolls-Royce, and now is a business owner and negotiation strategist, public speaker, author, just an amazing resume. And in this story, we will dive into her career story, her leadership lessons, how she transformed as a leader, and also get some negotiation tips. So, really, really excited for you to be here, Carolyn.
Yeah, it's wonderful to be here, even with the technical fairy stopping me trying to get here. But finally, we managed it. So I'm really excited. And thank you for inviting me, Nada.
Yeah, thank you. So this is a live episode, and there will be people coming in, hopefully, with some questions. If you're watching us live, please feel free to add your questions here, either on YouTube and LinkedIn, and we will answer as we go along. But Carolyn, so one of the questions I like to try to start off with is, since it's called Braving Innovation, tell me about a time when you had to face a really difficult decision or a difficult situation and you really had to be exceptionally brave. I feel like you're a person with a lot of courage anyways, but is there a moment that comes to your mind?
Yeah, it's there's lots of moments when you have to be brave, especially as a woman as a corporate executive. But actually, I think there's one that really is the most important one to me. And that was actually after I left the corporate world and I started my own business about a year and a half ago. And everything was great at first. Everything was wonderful. And then suddenly, like a house of cards, everything overnight just fell down. My mother got very ill. The funding for my startup business actually didn't come through, got rejected. My husband lost his job. A very close friend hurt me and betrayed me. And there were other things, but those were all the main ones. And it just all happened at the same time. It matched literally in 1 week. And I was thinking to myself, what am I doing? Why can't I manage this? You know, I've dealt with difficult situations. I'm strong. I'm the superwoman. I'm this. What is going on with me? And I think it was because it was all things in one go. And I'd never been in a situation where I'd had so many bad things happen in one go. And I just went into a black hole and I was there for some time. And I didn't even have the energy to kind of like stand up and try and find the way out. And everything that I was tapping into, which I thought, would have helped me from previous issues, just weren't working. I was lost. Every time I stood up, I fell down. Every time I took a step, I fell backwards and I was completely lost. And the brave moment was actually sitting back, reflecting on not why has this happened to me, but why am I here? And I suddenly realized this is a part of learning. This is like destiny. They've put all these things around me because I need to be stronger. I need to find out how to manage all these fires. Because if you want to run your own business, it's not just going to be have one project to deal with or two. You're going to have so many. And to do that, I really need to tap into an inner strength that I hadn't thought I'd got before. But I learned to do it with authenticity and to say, I've made a mistake. I'm a failure. I need help to stand up and take that first step. And that for me was extremely frightening. I had to be really brave because I'd spent 40 years working on this superwoman strength. I can do anything. Nobody frightens me. There is no problem too big for me. And I'd managed everything. And then I had to admit, actually, I can't manage everything. And I was like Dorothy from Wizard of Oz in a cyclone, but I didn't have, it wasn't a yellow brick road. It was a black hole. But once I started to come up that black hole, I actually got to the top and there was this yellow brick road and it was the start of a new journey. But I had to be brave to get up out of the black hole and to take those first steps and keep going, running my own business, even with everything falling down and starting not from scratch, but actually starting from minus.
Wow, that's such a powerful story. And I mean, what you said about embracing failure, um, for me, also having worked in corporate for many years, it's kind of like we don't use the word failure. It's seen as a very negative thing, and in some way, when you step out of that comfort, that safe zone of corporate, where you're shielded in so many ways, and even if you do make mistakes, even if you do have some setbacks, it's still within the corporate setting. And now, when you had kind of stepped out of that and it was you alone, that was the brand, it was no longer sitting on sort of a brand of a big corporation. I felt like everything that was happening around you, maybe you were taking it as a lot more personally than you would have otherwise.
Exactly. And that's really true because when you are in the corporate world and there is one project that is totally failing and there's this big problem, normally they'll take you away and give you just that to focus on. And there'll be lots of little problems, but you've got a team around you, you've got infrastructure, you've got tools. But when you're running your own business, you are the team, you are the infrastructure, you are the tools. And then one problem you can manage, two, okay. But when you've just surrounded by so many problems professionally, personally, and everything, and you're asking yourself, can I do this?
Hmm.
What have I done? And you
Yeah.
really have to kind of, yeah, but being authentic, and you're right. We are in the corporate world, especially women, we don't have that failure. We don't
Right.
have that fear word. We don't have that mistake word because we're the total opposite, right? We do everything not to have failure,
Yeah.
everything not to make mistakes, and everything to not show our fears.
And we're used to controlling everything, right? It's all about control. You're controlling the
Exactly.
environment, controlling everything. You control people. And then suddenly you're in the real world. You're outside corporate. And there are things that are just out of your control. And you're learning for the first time how I'm going to deal with these changes that are happening. I mean, in sort of your professional life, trying to build a new career, there are going to be setbacks. And also in your personal life, right? So
Yeah.
that's a big, I think, a big awareness for also other sort of people thinking about starting their entrepreneurial journey. And I think is also why maybe a lot of them give up too early, because suddenly they realize you have to be very comfortable with uncertainty and the lack of control.
Definitely. You have to be comfortable with stepping forward, even if you've got fear, to try it, because and take failure as a success,
Yes.
as a learning, as the first step. And that's what I was struggling with. And it took me some time to realize that. Luckily, it didn't take me 6 months, it didn't take me a year, and I didn't give up. And I wasn't going to give up because I'd had a taste of how happy and fulfilling it could be for a few months. And I just had to refine that and reconnect it, but do it a different way. And I think when I look back, I have no regrets.
Mm.
And I don't feel that I was a victim or it shouldn't have happened to me. I think it was probably the best thing that happened to me. And it happened to me in the early 6 months of my business. So I do feel now that whatever's thrown at me, I I
You
have
can
this
handle it. You can
I
handle
have
it.
strength
Yeah.
to handle it.
Yeah, it's funny because when you said, I have no regrets, you kind of like paused a little bit, and I feel like a lot of people ask me that too. They're like, "Do you have any regrets? Do you have any regrets?" And I'm just like, there are going to be ups and downs, but never in those down moments do you say, "I wish I'd not made that decision." Like, and just because it's not all hunky dory and not going the way that you wanted it to go doesn't mean that you regret the decision, because I mean, you reached a point where there was no other path forward but for you to do this. And I always say failure is learning in disguise. You just don't know at that time. And it's just a stepping stone because it's only going to move you forward. Um,
Exactly.
I mean, we can spend hours on this topic, but before we even go further deep into that, actually, I would love it for us to talk a little bit about, you've been this strong executive, successful leader within corporate, and a woman working in a very male dominant environment, and learned the ropes and learned like what is it going to take for you to climb up the ladder, earn the respect of your fellow colleagues, mostly men. um, and then you kind of also learned that maybe that's not really truly aligned with who you are. So maybe talk to us about that journey, about
Mhm.
how you transformed into who you are today, beginning with embracing kind of what corporate has taught us leadership should be.
Mm. Yeah, it's a really good question. And I think a lot of people, somebody says to me, so what you were for 25 years versus who you are today, which one is the real you? And I'm just like, both of them. So, and I will say, I have no regrets, only benefits of the 25 years I was in the corporate world. And I developed the traditional way. There was the corporate mountain, and it's what do I need to get to the top? Nothing or nobody stood in my way. I grabbed opportunities. I took up every opportunity that I could that was going to help me develop, grow, learn. I took on extra projects. I came up with strategy ideas. I did it all over and above my normal job. I built this professional persona and reputation, as in, if you've got a problem that you can't solve, or you've got a different negotiation, or you've got some critical thinking to do, you need to pull a team together who will deliver results. Carolyn is that person, and no challenge is too big for her. And I lent it, and not only did I lean in, I took my space. And if there was a man sat next to me and he tried to get into my space, guess what? I took his space from him. I was a kick-ass devil, badass leader. Was I liked? No. Did they want me on their team? Yes. Did people want to work with me, to learn from me? Yes. Did customers like me? Yes. Did leaders like me? Yes. Because it was like, she doesn't deal with bullshit. She just gets shit done. And that's what I did. Um, and the change happened. And there was no moment, there was no day, there was no one event. And actually, it happened at a really strange time, because I got my dream job within the organization, the one that I wanted when I joined 15 years earlier, the one that some of my male leaders said to me, you will never get that job. you're not good enough and you're not an engineer. And this job had only been done by pale male stale engineers. It was the one of it only didn't become available that often because people loved the job and they only moved on if it was a promotion. And the job came up and I thought, "Oh, that is the job I want." It was about future innovation, be an executive leader, not underpinning our place in the market, winning new market, introducing new products. It was just my dream job. And I went for it and I got it. And I was like, yes, success. Everything that I've put into it has been worth it. Look where I am. And you know what was also quite nice? One of those male leaders that said I'd never get it also interviewed and didn't get it. So I managed to beat him as well. I was on top of the world. I thought, I'm invincible. This is great. And I loved the job for a year. And then I started to think, is this it? Why did I want this job? I loved it, but I'd lost my mojo. And I started to ask myself, did I want this job to prove a point? Or did I want this job because this is my dream job and I want to do this for the next 10 years? Why? And I couldn't answer any of those, but I knew for sure that I was losing my mojo. I was losing my passion for the industry. I was losing my passion to go into work. And I didn't know why or how or what had happened because the company didn't change. I was changing, maybe. I don't know what it was. I loved the time at the company. I loved my career. I loved the colleagues. I loved the customers. But there was something not right anymore. And then I was fortunate to have the opportunity to take a voluntary redundancy, which is what I did. Everybody was really surprised. Everybody was like, "You got your dream job." I was like, "I know, but it's not my dream job anymore. I need to move." And I don't know, I didn't know where I was going to go. I just knew I needed a different environment. And COVID hit. So that was a little bit of bad planning from my side, but no regrets, didn't want to go back. And then I started to think to myself, what do I want to be remembered for? What do I want my grandchildren and my children to talk about? You know, this corporate, kick ass, badass female leader who would take us on nice holidays, or somebody who delivered value and created impact and helped other people to create impact. And that's what I decided to do. And at first, I was going to do it by being a business consultant for startups and use all my technical skills and use everything I'd learned from these pale, male, stale leaders in high tech corporations. But then, as I said, I went into this black hole. And by the time I got out of this black hole, that's when I realized now I know what I need to do. I need to help women be fearless. I need to be, instead of this devil leader, the lioness leader. The lioness, she rears and nurtures her cubs. She leads from behind. She'll show the way, but she steps back. If they kind of get on the wrong parts of the path, she just nudges them back. She doesn't kick them over. She lets them make mistakes. She shows them, guides them, and shares her knowledge so they can turn into brave lions and confident, bold lions. And the lionesses will also learn the skills so they can rear their cubs. And that's how I changed. And
Wow.
that's what I do
That's
now.
such a beautiful, beautiful analogy of just being this kind of graceful lioness who's so secure,
Mm,
that doesn't have to step on anybody else. And like you're saying, can just step back and let the lion come forward and like embrace all the glory and really be that
Yeah.
courageous leader, like really bring the best out of other people. And I think we all know today that in the 21st century, like that's really the leadership that we need in this digital era, because we're no longer working on the factory floor, and we shouldn't be treated like machines. And it's not about like that one additional sort of productivity output that you can get out of the human being, but how can you really get sort of their creative mind to start working, right? And really get those qualities forward. And I mean, I just absolutely love your story. And, I think it's listening to you talk is almost like preaching to the choir. But at the same time, it's just like I see so much of it in my own journey, because
Mm.
for me, it was exactly the same. Like I got my dream job and finally I'm there. And I'm like, wow, is this possible? I was, I remember I just, as soon as I got the job a few months in, I was just kind of contemplating about this. And I wrote on LinkedIn, like, I finally have my dream job. Like, let me just take that moment, and just celebrate. And a few months down the line, I resigned. And also knowing, like, sometimes you don't know why you do it, but there's something inside you that's feeling like not in alignment. And because people will ask you, like, why'd you do it? What happened? Did something happen? Like they're always looking for some drama or some like controversy, like something happened, you messed up, you couldn't do it. But sometimes it's just you just felt something just wasn't in
Mm.
alignment. And sometimes I think often it happens when you achieve that desired goal that you had been striving for so long, and you get there and you're like, what was, you kind of forget what is it that you really want. You're just going for that. You become tunnel visioned, and you're
Mm.
not really thinking and reflecting on why do I want to be there. And often, like, if James Clear, who wrote this book called Atomic Habit, he talks about being that person that's going to be achieving those goals. And maybe perhaps we need to start doing that more. Like, what is it going to take for us to be in that place, and start really envisioning, like, why is it that we want that goal? Because sometimes they're just superficial goals that other people have that we then attach ourselves to.
Exactly. That
Yeah.
it's like when I got there, it's like, why did I want this job? I love it. It's great. But is it because it's a coveted job? Is it because no woman's ever got it before? Is it because no engineer has ever got it before? So again, I'm proving that I can do this and I belong. And so I'm going to go after this job that everybody would love to do. And don't get me wrong, I did love it. But when I got there, you're like, and you kind of miss, where's your next challenge then, right? Where's your
Yeah.
next goal? Where do I go from here? And I
Yeah.
couldn't answer that.
Yeah, and I mean, but and also another thing that I really want to pick up on with you is also the kind of leader you were in corporate, and then you had to step out of corporate to transform into this new type of leader that was perhaps more in the feminine, perhaps more you, perhaps more aligned with your values. And was it that you didn't have space to be that kind of leader in corporate, or you just really had to step out of that environment?
No, I think it was definitely, and I've asked myself that a few times. I did change my last 2 years that I was there. Once I realized this devil kick-ass leader, just like standing up to the men and the men saying, "Stop looking at me like that. You make me really nervous." And me going, "Yes, that's what I wanted to do." I I didn't like it anymore. So I started being me. I started being authentic. I started showing, that I have feelings. I've got weaknesses. I'm not this superwoman. And people were asking me, are you ill? Oh, you had a burnout. They couldn't accept that I wanted to change my leadership. And some people didn't believe me. They like,
They
hmm,
didn't think you were being authentic
they didn't
when you
think
were
I
being
was
authentic.
authentic. And if a plant is flourishing in a garden and suddenly it starts to wilt and die, you can change the soil or you have to move the plant. It's the
Mhm.
environment that's affecting it. And it was just that I got to the point where I was no longer flourishing in this environment. The environment was good. So that means I needed to move myself to really find out, what did I want to be? Where did I want to go? And how I could start blooming again. How could I get my mojo back? Because it just wasn't going to be there anymore. Um, and, would I go back and work there again? Of course, I'd go back and work for them. They're a great company, they're successful. But could they accept the new me? I think I'd spent over 20 years building up this reputation and persona as this kick-ass devil leader. I think they would struggle to accept me as I am now, which is the lioness, authentic leader. And yeah, it wouldn't
And I
work.
think and I think that's the journey of many women. I spoke to another guest on this show about how early on, when we come into these very masculine environments, all you see is like that type of leadership, right?
Yeah.
That badass devil of a leader who is ruthless and is just only focused on the numbers. Nothing else matters. It's the numbers that matter, and they're completely focused on that, and that's valued. And anyone who's collaborative in some way is looked down on, that, oh yeah, that person is just too soft. We call them too soft if they're collaborative.
Yeah.
And so when you don't have these, you don't put all those things on an equal pedestal, and some things are valued more than the others. And if people are coming in with different values that are more collaborative, that are maybe more creative, or more able to see the bigger picture, integrate things in a way, their brain works in a different way, right? And we talk about diversity and inclusion.
Mm,
It's about not picking people who think exactly like you, who would react exactly like you, but having people and making space for people who are different. When I resigned from my job, one of my old bosses came up to me and said, I'm not surprised you don't belong here. And
wow.
and he meant it in a very positive way. He was like, you're just so brilliant in so many different ways, but you don't fit into our organization because you're so different. And I was like, I know you mean that as a compliment, but that's what's wrong with a lot of our corporate culture, is when we
Mm,
say that people who are different, who we desperately need and value, because that's what I was brought in, that's why I was given a role in which we're to transform the company and innovate the company. But then we want you to conform. We want you
mm.
to be like everybody else, and lose that part of you. I mean, somehow they expect you to keep that part of you, but still, be able to check all the boxes. But
Yeah.
realizing that you need to have different metrics, you need to see people from different lenses, because
Mm.
they bring different value to your companies. And we can no longer strive in a big corporation today if everyone's working the same way, thinking the same way.
Yeah, and that's totally true. Somebody asked me recently, in what type of environment do I thrive more? If I'm working with people who are like-minded, or if I'm working people with lots of different views and opinions and experience. If you'd have asked me that when I was in the corporate world, I would have said like-minded people. When you're building a team, you would say, no, too quiet, too soft, too nice, especially if you're dealing with problems. And you kind of your unconscious bias is you bring people into the team that are like you. However, now I've become stronger and more comfortable with my imperfections, with my vulnerability, with, I know what I'm not good at, and I know what I'm great at. I want to work with the opposites. I want to surround myself with people who are different. I want to listen to their views, hear their visions. I want a mixture of different ages, different gender, everything around me, different experiences, and because I think if you put all those together, just imagine the value and impact you can create. If you have a portion of people who are all the same, they're going to be missing some really potential great ideas because they're all thinking the same thing. So,
Mhm. Absolutely. So time is going by really fast, and I wish we had more time. So I really want to make sure that we cover uh, another part of your expertise, which is negotiation. So you help women and businesses in general get better negotiators. So maybe if you could share with us kind of your 3 top negotiation tips for someone who's either going in a salary negotiation or trying to get that next promotion, what would you advise them?
Yeah. Well, these are the negotiation tips I tell you to use in any negotiation, whether it's a business negotiation, whether it's a salary, all types of negotiation. The first thing is preparation, then more preparation. And what I mean by that is you prepare all your facts, your information, your figures. You prepare your mindset. You prepare your framing. You prepare your presence. You prepare everything. So when you show up, you've got the inner and outer confidence of you know what you need, but also you know it from the other party's point of view as well. The second thing is going to a negotiation, it's a collaboration. It doesn't have to be a competition. It doesn't have to be a contest. The best negotiators are effective because they collaborate. They ask lots of questions and then they ask more questions and they listen. Now, I don't just mean listen so you can put your point across, I mean active listening. A great negotiator talks much less than a bad negotiator, because by listening, you're hearing the other party, they're sharing their things, you're identifying potential solutions. And the other thing I would say, which is the biggest tip about negotiation, is believe in yourself that you can do it, the value you bring, but also show that value. So if you're looking for a salary negotiation, a promotion, or a job interview, you don't turn up and say, well, the market's paying 10,000 a month, so that's what I want. You are a commodity, you are an asset, you're bringing value. So you show them the value that you've delivered to that company, to other companies. You show them the value that you will deliver to them. You show them the benefits of working together, you in that company. And a really good trick is when you are talking to a potential new company, talk to them as if you're already there, because then it takes away this personal emotions, this apprehension. Talk to them as if you're already a colleagues, and it's collaboration, it's solution finding, and get comfortable with no.
Hmm.
If they
Oh,
no, you're going to hear no. And in
well,
negotiations, you're always going to
yeah.
hear no. And the thing is, it isn't no agreement, it's no is the start. I get excited when I hear no. I'm like, whoa, I can work with a no.
Yeah, I mean, every time you negotiate and you get a no, you have more information from that negotiation process, right? So, one of,
Exactly.
I mean, some great tips like collaborate more, going that with that collaborative mindset, and listen, like listen deeply, and ask questions to actually hear their side of the story instead of, listening to just kind of. Uh, think about what you're going to say next, but really to try to understand what they're saying. And like you're saying, also being a colleague already, like talking to them as they're your colleagues and not thinking like, oh my god, this is my boss or my potential employer. So
Mhm.
the more comfortable you are in that negotiation process, the better. So thank you for those great tips. Before we end, I would also love it for you to maybe tell us a little bit about what you're doing now. How are you helping businesses and women who are listening right now? How can they get in touch with you?
Right. So first of all, I'll start with the last question. You can get in touch with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and just reach out to me. There's my link tree. You can actually get access to some of my free guides as well and some training videos. So what do I do now? I help women succeed in business and at business. I help them identify what's holding them back from growing, but also from stepping up and negotiating. And how do I do that? So it's, what are your personal and professional objectives? Where do you want to go? What's your value? And how do we put that into your personal brand? So you may not be going into a negotiation straight away, but actually you're negotiating every single day. And you say negotiating for a promotion, you shouldn't just be waiting for that 1 year appraisal. You should have the personal brand and the persona and be working to that promotion all year round, showing and talking and acting and showing your credibility, your uniqueness, your combination of skills and experience and the value. And this is what I do with women. It's, what's holding you back? Why don't you believe in yourself? What's holding you back from launching your business? What's holding you back from going for that promotion? What's holding you back from going for that new job? And then breaking all that down and then rebuilding it. And I use a 5P model, which is about your preparation. This is all your negotiation, your facts, figures, positive emotional intelligence, your presence, your positive mindset, and also your personal branding. And around all of that, it's how to negotiate in all situations, because negotiation is something, it's like learning how to play the guitar. You need to pick it up every day, and even if you only strum those strings for 5 minutes, that will help you the better guitarist. And it's the same with negotiation. The more you do it, the better. You actually don't even realize you're negotiating and influencing and stakeholding and managing people, because it just becomes your second nature. And that's where I'm helping women to get to.
That sounds very empowering, and I think a lot of women can use that help and support. So thank you so much, Carolyn, for being on here. Anyone who wants to get in touch with her, you can leave us as a message here. Get in touch with me. You can find her on LinkedIn, and we're gonna have to get you back on here because we have so much to talk about. And now that we've resolved the technical glitches, it'll be easier, and we'll be on time next time. Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Nada. Bye.
Bye.